Starting in 2026, it is now mandatory for you to get a DNA test before you take your baby home and before the dad sign that birth certificate.
Everyone but modern women agree that DNA testing should be at birth. A lot of these women are mad about it, starting with her.
Mandatory. If you know, like, oh, my girl, she ain't doing this, she ain't doing that, like,
But would you
I already
feel
know what
offended
it
if a
is.
man asked you
I'm
that?
very much offended. If he, I'm be mad because you should know my body.
A lot of people have the, especially when it comes to women, is we just assume that they are loyal and trustworthy, right? And not all women are that. You get what I'm saying? So I don't think it should be any type of disrespect in there. You know, most guys that I ask this question, they just like, yeah, definitely. But when you ask women, it's like, nah, that's disrespectful. I'll kill it if you ask me that question.
I feel like it should be mandatory because, like I said, it would take out anybody being offended in the situation.
My significant other asking me, that would offend me. But if it was something that's
Already mandatory,
that's different.
Him asking that shouldn't get your lack of trust. That, if anything, if you're confident that it's his child,
I am.
It shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be no problem at all.
No, for me, I just feel like, honestly, don't ask me that because you sound stupid.
The reality is, a man doesn't have a way to know if the baby is his or not. That's why mandatory testing at birth is important. This woman stated that she would feel offended if a man asked her for a DNA test. But honestly, who cares? It's either he finds out now or later on when he realizes the child he's been raising isn't his. The truth is, a man has everything to lose if he just trusts. Without verification, women have 100% certainty that the child is theirs. Men don't. That's why DNA testing at birth should be standard procedure, not viewed as an insult. It's not about disrespect or distrust. It's about fairness, protection, and peace of mind. If a woman reacts negatively to a simple DNA test, that reaction alone says a lot. Why would anyone who has nothing to hide be offended by the truth? At the end of the day, finding out early protects everyone involved. The man from deception, the child from confusion, and even the woman from false accusations. The truth doesn't hurt honest people. It only exposes lies.
Starting in 2026, it is now mandatory for you to get a DNA test before you take your baby home and before the dad sign that birth certificate. And honestly, I am here for that. I am here for it because a lot of y'all women don't even know who y'all baby daddy is. Y'all be putting a baby on a man that wasn't even the daddy, and y'all be knowing they ain't the daddy, and don't say nothing till years later until the daddy find out. Y'all be having intercourse with different men, get pregnant, don't know who the baby daddy is, but you pick your favorite one and the one who actually gonna take care of the child to be the dad. And now you cannot leave the hospital and take that baby home or sign a birth certificate until that DNA test come back and it confirm that that's their dad. If it's not their dad, he cannot sign that birth certificate. If both parties say they don't want a DNA test, then they have to sign a contract saying, oh, I offered a DNA test, but they don't want to take it. If one person say they want it, they have to take the DNA test. If both parties say they want the DNA test, then yes, the DNA test is mandatory to be taken before you can even walk about the hospital and take that baby with you.
How can a man walk away from a child that he has been raising for 3, 5, 10, 15 years simply because the DNA test shows that he's not the biological father? Hear me out here. I'm not being insensitive. I know that his world has just been turned upside down. I know he feels betrayed. He's devastated. I empathize. I sympathize with his predicament. However, how is one able to walk away from a child that one has bonded with, loved, nurtured, poured blood and sweat into, simply because the DNA test shows that you're not the biological father? I understand getting rid of the wife or the girlfriend. The word I actually want to use starts with a W and rhymes with sure. Get rid of the W. But the children or the child, the innocent child, it is flummoxing to me. Now, I'm not a man and I do not know how this impacts men. I also know that there's deep shame. But were I in that predicament, of course I would be devastated. I'd be hurt and betrayed. But then I'd let the children know or the child know. You may not be my biological child, but you're still my child. I love you. You're my child in my heart. I've bonded with you. I've raised you. So nothing changes. Now, I know a lot of men worry about, oh, then I have to continue paying I have to pay child support now that we're not together. So what?
She just answered the question. How can a man walk away from a child's life after finding out he's not the father after 15 years? It's quite simple, because the foundation of that entire relationship was built on a lie. That man was emotionally, financially, and mentally invested in something that was never truly his to begin with. Imagine giving your all for over a decade, raising, loving, and sacrificing, only to find out that the person you trusted most betrayed you in the worst possible way. It's not the child's fault, but the pain of realizing your entire fatherhood was based on deceit is devastating. She said, "So what if he has to keep paying child support?" So what? He has to keep paying for a child he just found out isn't even his after walking away. This woman sounds absolutely insane. Imagine being forced by law to financially support a child that another man fathered, simply because you were lied to and trusted the wrong person. This isn't about being heartless. It's about justice and accountability.
Did you know that in the United States, a man can be forced to pay child support simply because he stepped in as a father figure or into the role of a father for children that weren't his? It's called equitable estoppel, or paternity by estoppel.
You got so close to the point and missed it. That not everybody needs a DNA test because they're in healthy, happy relationships and the father is actually the father. But the reason we need DNA testing is because there are men that believe they're in healthy, happy relationships with their wives and find out 2 or 3 or 5 years down the road that child wasn't there. There was a man on this app that his children were 30 years old. He had raised 2 sons his entire life and found out when his wife was sick and they all had to get blood work done that his children were not his children. Mandatory DNA testing protects men from this happening. It protects children from growing up with a father that they think is biologically theirs to find out one day in the middle of a medical need that father is not their father. Mandatory DNA testing stops fighting. Because if a man goes to a woman in a lot of situations, she's going to say, what, don't you trust me? Why do you not trust me? It's going to cause marital problems. It's the whole thing of when somebody asks to see your phone, you automatically assume that they think something negative about you. And a lot of people are not willing to hand over the phone because they live on the, you should trust me. So a lot of people would be afraid if they're in a healthy, happy relationship to request a DNA test because it puts the narrative that you don't trust that person. But when it comes to assigning paternity to a child for the rest of their lives, a man has a right to know whether or not they're the biological father, and a child has a right to know who their biological father is. And it shouldn't be a big question. It should just be a standard that happens in labor and delivery that's covered by insurance.
I agree. And yes, there's a man on TikTok who found out the child wasn't his after years. We'll get to that in a bit. But this right here is why mandatory DNA testing is more necessary than ever. In today's culture, where sexual liberation is celebrated and many modern women openly admit to having rosters, hookups, and situationships, you really never know what could happen. It's not like the past, when commitment and loyalty were clear expectations. Now, everyone's exploring options, dating around, and living their truth. But when that lifestyle leads to confusion about who the father is, why should an innocent man be the one paying the price for it? If a woman chooses to live freely and entertain multiple men, that's her decision. But the man has a right to clarity before signing his life away financially and emotionally. In a world where paternity fraud is real and sexual freedom has blurred all boundaries, the only way to protect men and children from deception is through universal DNA testing at birth. Because one thing's for sure, with the way things are now, trust alone just isn't enough anymore.
Starting in 2026, it is now mandatory for you to get a DNA test for that baby before that man sign that motherfucking birth certificate. For all you hoes that keep saying, yeah, I didn't sleep with multiple motherfucking men, I don't know who my baby daddy is. Now, before you leave the fucking hospital, you have to take a fucking DNA test. Before that man sign that fucking birth certificate, you have to take a fucking DNA test. You and that baby. So now ain't no more, oh, I didn't know you was the daddy. No, bitch, it's mandatory now. So if you had a motherfucking baby and that man that ain't that daddy there, that's your ass, and you go get caught up. And the crazy part is, most of y'all be fucking most motherfucking men and don't even be knowing who the daddy is. And now I'm glad they enforcing this law, because y'all be quick to pin a baby on somebody and don't even know if that's their real child or not. Men be going years with taking care of somebody else's child that they don't even know if it's theirs or somebody else's. So yes, I'm glad that they're fucking enforcing this law now. Now it's mandatory. You have to take a DNA test when you give birth to that motherfucking baby before that man sign that fucking birth certificate, and that's a good fucking thing. So all y'all hoes gonna be caught the fuck up.
One thing I will never agree with and I will never understand is a woman telling a man that he is the father of her child when she knows that he is not the father of her child. Even if you think that there's a possibility that he's not the father, he needs to know. The people who are doing this for financial gain, it's not okay. This guy experienced this. Listen to his story.
I have been married for 51 years. Got 2 sons, 42 and 40. Needed to take a test to see if any of us had a kidney good enough for my brother. Found out something interesting. They ain't my kids. There's somebody else's. Of course, the only good thing is, I know it's not my fault that those 2 idiots got dumped into this world. Hell, I thought they took after their mother. Instead, they take after the plumber or the postman or the milkman, or, yeah, they were milkmen back when they came around. I mean, God only knows. It just chaps my ass. Hell, boys, y'all need to go get your own paternity test. You can't tell by looking who's the daddy, unless you're looking down at the genetic level. Guy says he ain't the daddy, he's right. And the genetic test is the only way to prove it for sure. These women are hopping everything that looks fun. You thought you liked. You ain't nothing. Well, I guess that pretty well completes that story.
Married for 51 years and finding out your kids aren't yours. That's the heartbreaking reality this man is facing right now. Imagine dedicating over half a century of your life to someone, building a family, creating memories, growing old together, only to discover it was all built on a lie. That kind of betrayal doesn't just break your heart, it shatters your entire identity. This is exactly why mandatory DNA testing at birth isn't about paranoia. It's about protecting men from being deceived for a lifetime. One simple test could have saved this man from decades of lies, pain, and betrayal. This is why her just saying it is yours is not enough to believe it. Words mean nothing without proof, especially in a time where loyalty has become a rare trait. A woman can say, "It's yours," but without a DNA test, that's just a statement, not evidence. Too many men have trusted those words, only to be blindsided years later with the truth that destroyed everything they thought was real.
Abortion. The father has equal protection under the law and equal rights under the law, guaranteed and protected by the 14th Amendment and every state constitution. If the father says, "No, you can't murder my baby," a woman does not have the right to have an abortion. She must bring the child to term and surrender all rights.
If a asks you for a DNA test, that means he know you a little ran through. I'm sorry. He don't trust your ass as far as he can throw you. Cause not like that, nigga not gonna just ask you for no DNA test. Especially if y'all in a relationship, he's not finna just ask you for no DNA test. He a little skeptical.
I think that the United States making DNA testing mandatory is stupid. I don't think that you know, it's something that if you feel like you need a DNA test, go do that on your own time because you feel that way. I don't think every person, there's millions of people in the United States. Like, it doesn't make sense that people could be using that time to do other things. Like, you could be saving a life. You could be in a hospital saving a life.
I personally pay taxes, and I care about where my money goes. I'm not here to pay for so-and-so because there's a confusion about who's the father. That's not my business. Handle your personal shit. And for me, I want to fund schools. I want to fund the MTA because the trains are never on time. We got bigger problems. We have bigger problems. I'm sorry. I'm not paying for no mandatory test.
Let us understand why it's so selfish of you women who debate and argue against these mandatory paternity tests. Because we hear these stories time and time again. We see numerous clips of men presenting the DNA papers to their woman and say, hey, look, it's proof that I am not the father.
You are not. I don't think there's any issue with a man taking care of another man's child. Women do it all the time, whether you know or not. He might bring another child and say, oh, I had this out of our wedlock, you know, what are we going to do? Or he's taking your money and paying child support to another family. You had no idea. So when we're just like jumping like, oh, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Hold on. It's already being done.
You could have been doing so many other things with your life. You could have been figuring your life out. I don't know, feeding pigeons. I don't know, doing anything. But you raising a kid that is not yours. I mean, if you had the option to know that was your kid and you wanted to raise that kid, that's perfectly fine. A lot of people do that. But when you don't know, you're doing it out of the obligation or the mindset that this is my child. I'm going to raise him or her. I'm going to raise them up. I love them. This is my DNA. This is my blood. And then come to find out that's not your kid.
I mean, in all honesty, I think, you know, with government, you know, potentially passing a law to make DNA like a must, I think it works out for the best for everyone, in all honesty, because for a kid, I think the kid deserves to know who's their real mother and father. And if it's something that we start now, it's something that makes it an easier conversation down the road where it's not necessarily about trust, but it's just something that comes as a part of having a kid. I mean, you know, you've already tested the baby to make sure that it's healthy. Why not test to make sure you understand who the parents are?
Any woman who's strongly against a DNA test, just like these women, you should already know what time it is. They're for the streets. There's no logical reason to deny a DNA test unless there's something to hide. For her to say DNA testing is stupid proves exactly why it's needed. If she was confident about who the father is, she wouldn't be offended. She'd be calm, secure, and supportive. But when she reacts with anger, mockery, or defensiveness, that's not confidence. That's guilt trying to disguise itself as outrage. As a man, especially today, you've got to be careful. We're living in a time where trust can cost you everything. Your peace, your money, your reputation, even your future. One mistake, one misplaced belief in the wrong person, and you could end up paying for it for the rest of your life, literally and emotionally. You can't just take someone's word anymore. Those days are over.